Good morning, viewers. My name is Eric, and I will be your host for today's episode. And today we're going to be speaking to Jim of J2ARMS, and the topic of our discussion is going to be recovery coaching, and how recovery coaching and J2ARMS can benefit you and help you to achieve long-term recovery on your journey. Good morning, Jim.
Morning to you, Eric. Nice to have this conversation with you today.
Jim, I've noticed that recovery coaching is fast becoming the favorite coaching modality globally. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about J2ARMS recovery coaching and how it all started?
Sure. Well, obviously it's a topic that I'm very happy to talk about, and I agree with what you just said. The platform is very exciting, and it's weaving its way into the fabric of recovery now, which was obviously our ambition. And the idea of it came from the training that I did as a recovery coach, because it was introduced to me, and the learning and the depth of the training that I did was incredible, both from an educational and inspirational perspective, actually. And yeah, it was intense. You know, a lot of learning, a lot of practice, and case studies, and assessment, and all of that leading to successful certification. And I felt very empowered by that because of that process. And so, having practiced coaching, practice as a private coach for a while, I felt that there was some definite value in putting a platform together that put a bunch of guys and that had trained at the same academy as me together, and make our services available to those that were looking for help and partnership in their journey from the culture of addiction to the culture of recovery. So that's where it came from. And I'm very pleased, as I said, with where we are getting to in terms of being known in the recovery and wellness space.
Well, that's very, very, very good, Jim. You know what? If I must look at my own recovery journey, which has been going for like 14 years now, I've run into, the normal options that there are in the world. And you've got the fellowships on the one side, you've got the rehab centers on the other side. And now you've brought to the table a platform for recovery coaching. So I want to find out a bit more about the recovery coaching side. What does that entail?
Well, yes. I mean, as an addition to, it's a very powerful partnership, is a way of summarizing it. And I mean, a lot of that power comes from the fact that, well, the 2 points. We focus on the wellness of each individual that comes to us. And also that individual is the driver of the agendas of the sessions that we have. So, we're not taking a position of telling people what they should be doing in order to achieve the recovery that we think that they should have. We are helping people that have an ambition to move in the direction of recovery, to put a plan together to help them achieve that. So it's their plan, it's their agenda, and we're here as a partner in that process to talk around the points that are challenging within that, and maybe just develop some conversation around some ideas that hadn't been looked into in much detail to that point. So as to give the individual or the client the best chance of putting together a robust recovery plan to help them achieve their ambitions and move themselves forward with the strengths that they have within them, and in the direction of sustainable wellness.
That's very powerful, Jim. What comes up for me that really rings true to my heart is the fact that you're driving the client's agenda and that there's nothing pre-prescribed that they have to follow. And that is very powerful because you're treating the person from a position of wellness, or in the space of wellness, if I understand it correctly.
100%, 100%. You know, and we know our place in this process as well. We don't profess to be covering all the bases. If there are requirements for from other services, we'll talk about them and make sure that they are appropriately discussed and implemented to achieve the ultimate ambition, which is to create a sustainable recovery along the lines that the client is looking to achieve. And that can involve the individual. That there's obviously family and loved ones elements within that, and there's community elements within that. So it's a kind of systemic process, or a process that requires quite substantial involvement, or multi-layered involvement, but always driven by the client and their agenda, and looking to shape things most constructively around that starting point, or from that starting point.
Okay, so you mentioned the word systemic, and that rings a bell somewhere, because in my experience, the family is always involved in the case where there is a problem with addiction with one specific member. So how do you go about working with the family dynamic to support a person suffering from addiction and to integrate them back again into their family as a whole person?
Well, that's a good big question, and I mean, establishing as good a family connection as possible is very important. It's important for the family to understand that they didn't cause the addiction, or they didn't cause the addictive behavior. They can't control it, and so an understanding of where they are in that process is something that's hugely important. And a phrase that often comes up in this in this particular area is the ability to detach with love, to help to give the individual the space to build the recovery. You know, that requires that can require some work, but we're here to help with that work as well. Correctly helping the family to position themselves around whatever elements are involved in an individual's recovery process is key, and the better that can be done, the better the chances of creating a sustainable and robust outcome.
Yeah, the term codependency comes up for me in a scenario where there's one family member, the father or the mother or the child, a young person, would be, for argument's sake, an alcoholic. And everybody in the family would then be codependent in terms of their alignment with that person. So everybody would wake up in the morning and say, well, is my brother drunk again, or is he sober this morning? And that will determine whether I'm having a good day or not. So how do you approach that in terms of the family structure?
Yeah, well, you paint a picture that indeed we come across that we come across on regular occasion. And I think the way to probably summarize and generalize around that is that I mean, obviously, the codependency is a very common factor in many people's lives. But our ambition, we'll look at things in terms of, if there is a state of codependence, our ambition is to move people further into the independence direction. So on the one hand, if we're helping people move from the culture of addiction to the culture of recovery, we can be helping people move from the culture of codependence to the culture of independence. From that, and that's a journey. I mean, that's not that mustn't be underestimated. But one can go from a state of codependence to a state of independence, and then achieve healthy interdependence with people. And so to have that as a picture of what can be achieved is a very useful image to be able to create. And we have, you know, we can talk around that to achieve that outcome for people, if it's a, you know, if it is an important factor to them, you know.
Yeah. As you've been working with clients, how do they overcome the stigma that is always attached to addiction, for instance?
Another huge one. Your questions are great, and I think where this topic falls into, or the area that it falls into, is probably the creation of recovery capital. And I mean, this is a key factor for everyone looking. I mean, we're big on recovery capital, and so in terms of we meet people where they're at, and we never have any, there's never any judgment in our coaching sessions from any of our coaches. That's something that just doesn't feature. And so in a sense, you know, that is a very positive starting point for somebody who does feel stigmatized by their behaviors. And we will always, as I said, we meet people where they're at, and we look to move forward from there. So every session will be moving away from this perceived or rightly observed stigma that is coming from an external source. And one of the most powerful ways of doing that is to create recovery capital to ensure that the individual realizes that what they're doing now is they're behaving differently, and they're moving in a direction that they feel that they have more control over, whereas the lack of control and the powerlessness is obviously a huge feature in addictive behavior or substance misuse or process addiction. So it's about the power in a very kind of, just to take one word, but recovery capital, hugely important to help destigmatize somebody's perception of themselves.
Jim, let's speak about the term or phrase recovery capital. What does that look like?
Well, recovery capital, I think it's best to break it down into two categories: internal and external. So, you know, for any individual, personal motivation is a great starting point as far as recovery capital is concerned. Obviously, self-esteem as well. Coping skills and resilience will be areas of focus as well, and emotional well-being is hugely important. As far as the external side is concerned, this involves kind of social support, community resources, employment, stability in the home life, and if necessary, access to treatment programs. So there's substantial lists of each, but I think that's a good flavor for internal and external recovery capital to start with.
That's very interesting, Jim. So let's move on a little bit. The question I've got for you is, when we look at the recovery coach and recovery coaching as a whole, how does it differ from the 12-step program, to use an example?
Well, I think the way to start that that sort of conversation is to look at the difference. The 12-step programs focus on the illness. Recovery coaching focuses on the wellness. So if you just let that percolate in terms of approach, that is a very that's a huge difference. I don't have a bad word to say about the fellowships, but I have a lot of good things to say about approaching things from a wellness perspective, where we focus on the strengths of an individual, and we will always work with the strength and wellness of any individual to help them move themselves forward, rather than keep referring back to the illness. So it's a case of us taking things from this moment forward, rather than looking in a backward direction, which is obviously where the illness tag comes from.
Well, thanks for that. I've always thought about that, and I can see clearly the impact it must have if looking forward instead of backwards, and how that can benefit an individual looking to achieve long-term recovery. Let's look at the coaches. Jim, how many coaches have you got on the platform, and what are they accredited? Are they certified? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Great. Well, I'm delighted to have. We are a total number of 10 coaches. So I've done the training and the training as well, and we've got a really good blend of coaches on the platform now. We've all been trained through the same academy, and the thing that was really important to me from the start, and remains as important today, is to have some independent validation of the certification that we've all got, and so all coaches are certified, and they're all independently accredited, so we have an independent conformity assessment body where we have to keep up our practice active, keep our learning moving forward, and so the uniformity and independence of the accreditation, the uniformity of training and the independence of accreditation is something that's very important to me, and will be hugely valuable to all those that engage with us on the platform.
Excellent. So in terms of experience, how many hours of coaching have been completed by the coaches?
Between us, we have in excess of 25,000 hours of client coaching practice already done. So significant experience in this space.
Let's look a little bit at the process that people will be following if they would like to connect with J2ARMS.com. What is the modus operandi for them to connect with you and can they choose the coach that they feel more familiar or aligned with? How does that process work?
Well, we've made that as user friendly as we can. On the website, we have a WhatsApp button which will automatically connect with us and get immediately responded to. Or we have a short email that can be sent, an email with basic contact details and a little bit of further information that again will be responded to as immediately as is possible. What that will create is the opportunity for a free discovery call where we will establish exactly where somebody is, where they want to get to in a recovery sense, and whether we're right for them. If we are, then we move into a selection process of coaching based on what the client feels would be most appropriate for them, male, female, whatever the important elements are in that process. And then we would connect client with coach and establish all of our coaching is done over Zoom. So we would create a Zoom link and share that between coach and client and set up a schedule. And then, I mean, what we would instinctively suggest post discovery call and at the start of a coaching relationship is to have a minimum of three sessions just to establish a solid base from which to work. And then move on from there in terms of how many further sessions are required. I mean, there are examples of, I have personal examples of individuals who have done very well with 3 sessions and been able to move on in the direction that they've wanted to go, and that's great. But I also have examples of people who've had much longer duration coaching contracts with coaches in order to achieve the same ambition. So there's no one size fits all. But the process from the get-go is very simple. We've got the coaching. The coaches are currently available to schedule with, and so the recovery journey can start immediately if the individual needs it to. So that's that's where we've got to on the process side.
Excellent. So when we look at the admission time, is there any waiting periods for that clients would have to adhere to, or can anybody join and start with the coaching right away?
It's very much the latter. I mean, if you wanted to connect with a coach, we could have you and I could have a discovery call, and if we decided that coaching was right for you, we would select a coach, and you could be being coached by this afternoon. It's so no waiting time. Obviously, can be a significant hurdle, or a significant hindrance rather, because the reality of this space is that the immediate help is by far the preferred approach.
Yes, indeed. Especially in South Africa, there's normally a long waiting list of a couple of months for people to have to wait until they actually get access to help and assistance. And with this platform, that could absolutely be eliminated, and they could get help right away. Do you handle and do you offer your services to corporates as well?
Yes, we do. I mean, we have a significant amount of, or we're putting a significant amount of energy into the corporate and the service provider side of things as well, in terms of creating collaborations and partnerships, because we can absolutely see how we can help, as you've mentioned, corporates with the well-being and wellness of their workforce. So being signed up with either employee assistance packages or individual corporates can be hugely helpful, because there is this there is an obvious image that people have around the word addiction, but it doesn't start. Things don't start with addiction. I mean, if we look at that continuum, you've got people who if you want to just categorize the range on that continuum, it starts with abstinence. And then goes to use, then goes to misuse, then goes to abuse, and then to dependence. But people aren't constrained. Nobody is constrained in terms of the timing at which they talk to somebody about moving themselves in the more positive direction. So, in a corporate sense, if we are there and available for employees to just have a word and have a conversation about moving their direction of travel, then that has got to be, that's a win-win situation, because the employee will feel better and will likely be a more productive employee. So that's 2 out of 2. So that ambition is very realistic as far as our where we're going to be practicing going forward. And as I say, it's a win-win for the individual and for the corporation. So it makes sense.
Let's talk about home detox. Is that also one of the options that you would include in your services?
Really good topic. Yeah, I mean, home detox is an area that we're looking very closely at and taking positive action on. It's not something that we will provide personally, but we've partnered up with some of the best home detox providers out there, so that that process can be successfully and professionally managed in conjunction, but we're joining it up with coaching contracts as well. So creating an end-to-end service that is available to people that doesn't involve therefore going to rehab. They can successfully detox at home, appropriately supervised, and we will blend the coaching element into their recovery journey at the right time, which will be very early in the overall process. And again, it can be a tailored number of coaching sessions in order for the individual that's had the convenience of detoxing at home, coupled up with an appropriate number of coaching sessions to create a robust and sustainable journey into recovery.
That's excellent. So I think, just for the sake of the viewers, just to summarize, what I've learned from you this morning is that recovery coaching focuses on the future, and the agenda is driven by the client that you engage with. The clients can come to j2arms.com. They can have a free call. They can discuss where they are at and what their needs are. You would then link them up with a recovery coach that is accredited and also certified. You can also work with corporates and collaborate with their HR staff in terms of how you could determine where the corporate is at, and identify the individuals that would need to engage with J2ARMS. And then you would be using recovery capital, internal and external options to support the individual on the journey to recovery. How does that sound? Is that more or less on the knot?
Yes, I would say you've covered it there. Yes.
Excellent. So let's look at anything else that you can bring to the table.
Well, we are, we're still absolutely developing our our sphere of influence, if you like. And there's a number of there's so many conversations going on in the charitable sector, in the service provider sector, that will undoubtedly bear fruit at the appropriate time. But I think the summary that you've just given is very accurate in terms of where we are at now. But you know, we'll continue to grow. We've got more coaches that are looking to join us when required. So you know, it's a dynamic. We're at a very dynamic stage of our development, and you know, the signs that we're getting from the recovery community is that you know, we are wanted, and we are weaving our way into that fabric. So it's an exciting time, but I think we've given everybody a very an appropriately thorough picture of where we're at, and also a bit of a picture of where we're going as well. So I think we're in a top spot for now, Eric.
Viewers, thank you so much for watching. Jim, thank you for your time. Please do share and subscribe, and check out our next episode where we introduce the coaches of J2ARMS.com. Until next time, goodbye.